Greetings. Hello, everybody. Hi. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Show of hands, who is at the store for the very first time? Hey, that's a very small number. Yeah, we love that. Welcome to the store. We're happy to have you. My name is Lainey Rose. I'm the events manager here at East City Bookshop. It is wonderful to be with you all today and to celebrate Nikki on Valentine's Day. Our calendar is always full of events here at East City Bookshop. Next week, we'll be hosting Vera Kurian for her next novel, A Step Past Darkness, and we'll be hosting a panel with authors Nicole Cuffey, Cheryl Head, and Christine Platt for a panel titled Chocolate City, Black Authors on Black Stories, where they will be discussing the Black literary landscape of Washington, D.C. In honor of Black History Month. So that is happening later this month. We also have 14 book clubs at the store, including our Really Reading Romance Book Club. And I see a few familiar faces in the audience so that you know it's a good group. All the information about how to sign up for our websites, sign up for our book clubs and our events is on our website, and we'd be happy to have you there. Before we get to tonight's event, some housekeeping details. Number one, if we could take a moment to silence our cell phones, it would be appreciated. Number two, if you need a restroom, it's upstairs past the cash registers and the greeting cards. Number three, we will have time for your questions tonight for both in-person and virtual attendees. So even if you are watching via Zoom, you can participate. Please put those questions in the Q&A feature on the chat, and keep the chat for letting us know where you're tuning in from, what your favorite Jane Austen retelling is. Obviously, it's Nikki Payne. We'd love to hear from you. And finally, most importantly, if you need to purchase a copy of any of Nikki's books, Taj's books, or Mia's books, we have all of those upstairs, and we'd be happy to help you out with that. And they can be purchased prior to the signing line, which will be happening later this evening. And now the reason we're here. Who here is a fan of Jane Austen retellings? Okay, come on, give me a little more than that. Yeah, there we go. All right. Nikki Payne crafts her stories with such care and such love for the characters that she's creating. It is like a physical thing that you can feel in your chest. Sex, Lies, and Sensibility is a beautiful, sexy story all on its own while giving a loving nod to the original Sense and Sensibility. I sat down to read the first 50 pages. I had blinked, 5 hours had passed, and I'd read half the book. It is that good. Nikki Payne has been such a wonderful friend to the store in the last year. She has been here for so many of our events. We are so thrilled to be able to host her and celebrate her tonight. Our Galentines of the evening are Mia Sosa, who writes funny, flirty, and moderately dirty contemporary romances that celebrate our multicultural world. A graduate of the University of Pennsylvania and Yale Law School, Mia practiced First Amendment and media law in the nation's capital before trading her suits for sweatpants. Born and raised in East Harlem, New York, Mia is finally ready to call Maryland her home. She lives with her college sweetheart, their two book-obsessed daughters, a gentle King Charles Spaniel, and an adorable rescue cat that rules them all. Oakland-born law grad Taj McCoy is the author of Savvy Sheldon Feels Good as Hell, Zora Books Her Happily Ever After, and editor of the disaster rom-com anthology Even If the Sky is Falling. In addition to writing, Taj works as a literary agent and also a higher education consultant. She aims to widen the entry for marginalized authors and to normalize Black joy, fat joy, celebrations of culture, and love without limitations. And last, certainly not least, Nikki Payne is a curious tech anthropologist asking the right questions to deliver better digital services. By night, she dreams of ways to subvert canon literature. She's a member of Smut MU, a premium feminist writing collective, and a cat lady with no cats. Please join me in welcoming our authors of the evening. Woohoo! Here they come, giving out hugs. One more round of applause.
I don't know what I'm doing. These are pink disco balls. There may or may not be rosé in them. We will not answer questions about what is in these disco balls.
All right. How y'all doing? You good? You excited? Yeah. All right. Well, we're about to get into it. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Nikki, This is your second novel. Let's take a moment to celebrate the momentous occasion and simply bask in that amazing accomplishment. How do you feel?
I feel still very nervous. I feel like that, that nervous emptying, right? That happens. I feel anxiety, but I also feel like I'm so glad that it's in the world, right? So tired of talking about a thing I'm about to do, right? Do you ever get that feeling of just like tired of being about to do stuff? You know what I mean? I want to get to the point where I've done it, and this is it. Today I've done it.
Okay, my dear. Okay, first off, I think your website tagline, classics, bougie, ratchet, deserves a standing ovation.
Yes, yes,
And am I right that I'm supposed to sing it to like Savage?
you absolutely are.
Okay, 'cause that's all that I like. I can't get that out of
No,
my head.
those are the rules.
Okay.
Those are the rules. And you have
So-
to do at.
Ah. Okay, so tell us about that tagline and what it's supposed to tell readers about what they should expect in your books.
The reason why I love classics, bougie, ratchet is because one, I am a lover of classic literature. I was trying to determine when I was an undergrad whether I was going to focus on major in literature or major in political science, and I could not decide. I had both credits, and I ended up throwing away all of my English lit credits. I loved classic literature, not because it was this right way of seeing the world, but for the ways that I could see the world today in them, right? So I was always reading classic literature for what is Jane Eyre? Like when you read Jane Eyre, you like everybody knows a little bit of an F boy, like like Rochester, right? Like who gaslights you a little bit, like this guy. You know this guy. And so when you read Jane Eyre, it's not to, for me, it wasn't to romanticize about some pristine, perfect past. It is to think about what it looks like today for a person who's has no agency, who's backed up against the wall, to have to take this job with this F boy and then like fall in love, you know? So yeah, I love that. Classics, but also,
Let's talk about the bougie
also,
and the
yeah,
ratchet.
Also, look. I'm from Houston. I'm from Greens Point, Houston. If anyone knows it, it goes by Guns Point. You know, so that is where I am from, and my POV is always looking up from a particular positionality, and I take that with me everywhere. I don't think will ever be able to write a POV from the top. I just can't. Started from the bottom down. What?
Love it. Okay, so not that anybody here needs to be convinced to buy this book, but what is your elevator pitch? If you could tell somebody in a very short amount of time why they should buy this book and what they should expect, what would you tell them?
Curse or no? What's the situation?
Yes?
Oh, okay. Okay. If I'm being super pithy, I'm going to just say what I said earlier, which is bare F's. you know, like that is a short title. Okay, bare F's. But I would also say that it is just this very fun riches to rag story about these moco black girls who have to move themselves and find themselves in coastal Maine. And when we think about Maine, I feel like it lives in black lore as being as being a place with no black people in it, right? You just like when you think of Maine, you go, ain't no black people over there. And like when I wanted to like maroon my heroines, I just wanted to think of a place where everyone's just like, girl, what are you doing? And so yeah, like riches to rags, this fish out of water. It's like Schitt's Creek. It's Insecure, kind of put together. It was a very long elevator pitch. Sorry.
No, that was perfect.
It was perfect. So I'm gonna steal a line from you that you say all the time. You know what you did.
Okay.
Okay. Now, at the beginning of this book, there's this really lovely author's note that touches on the fact that you have this background in cultural anthropology and you dipped into a substantial amount of research for this particular book. Can you tell us a bit about your background and how you leaned into the research?
Oh, yeah. So something that we just realized, we were probably contemporaries, maybe, at the University of Pennsylvania. I'm a cultural anthropologist, PhD, all the way full nerddom. Um, and I love asking myself and asking my characters big cultural questions, particularly whenever I'm bringing two characters together, they're going to have a bigger discussion than just kind of about their love and about their relationship. And that's not saying anything against any type of books that aren't. That's just the type of romance that I'm interested in mining. And so when I thought about this particular subjectivity, a Native American man, one, you don't want to really mess that up. You don't want to phone that in. You don't want to just like, I'm gonna use my imagination. So I went to Maine, me and my best friend, we packed up. We went to a small town, Orono, and we were right next to the reservation, and we met with people, with artists, with professors, with scholars, with community folks, and they talked about what was awesome about the community. They talked about what sucked. I sat in a council meeting for 3 hours, and the entire subject was fish, right? So it was not everything is sexy, you know what I mean? It's not sexy research. But it was this moment where I was allowed in to see what the community cares about and what was important to them, because I didn't want to phone that in. And when I thought about Bear and the types of things that were important to him, I wanted to bring everything that I had learned, everything that community had trusted me with, back into that book. But it wasn't like hello, welcome, like tell us more. It was really this sense of sharing. It was a conversation. So I'm like, this is what I'm hearing. Is this okay to talk about? And in some instances, they were just like, no, that's not your story. Like, please sit down. Right. And in those instances, I took it out. Right. This isn't it. Once I always say, like, I'm not interested really in telling the story of the Abenaki, right? And so when I was telling my story, I wanted to be extremely careful about what the community was interested in, how they were interested in being represented. So I wanted that to be a conversation and not me saying, this is who you are, you know?
Okay, so obviously the main characters are Shonora, and Bear Freeman. And there are some wonderful secondary characters, Yan and Moxie.
Yes.
But there's also another character that I thought you brought to life, and that is Barton Cove.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that, sort of bringing that and centering it as a character in and of itself, and what does it represent for you, and what did you hope to achieve with Barton Cove?
Love this question so much, y'all. We are about to get uncomfortable. You're just like, why did you ask her this? I'm bored. Okay. No, I love this because I feel like relocation, particularly like renovation stories, are about so much more than the area. So when Nora comes there, her reputation is in tatters, right? She's just lost someone. She is very much in a similar position, I would argue, as a state of disrepair as the place that she's coming to fix up. And it is like, and the larger theme there that I wanted to mine out is that, like, sometimes you can just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and that's awesome, like, great. But sometimes you need people feeding into you, like loving on you, and like being a part of your team to really make that place internally and externally habitable. And so if we think about Barton Cove and that inn as like a larger metaphor for Nora's relationship to her own body, #scandal, right? Like, she was really working so hard to force this sense of respectability into that place, right? Sometimes you don't have to do that, right? So it's also this sense of like pushing out against this respectability politics. This house is going to be this no matter what, because this is a respectable establishment, right? And the house didn't want to do that, right?
Oh, I just love when an answer lives up to what I was hoping for.
So I'd like to talk about another side character that happens to be one that makes an appearance a few times during the story. Let's talk about Bear in gray sweatpants.
Ooh, baby, baby,
Hashtag
baby.
plantain pants.
Plantain
Okay.
pants, baby. If you know, you know. If you know, you know.
You know, and so there is a moment of reference to plantains, and
Apologies for all of our
Zaddy of the Zodiac.
no,
Zaddy.
it's phenomenal. And so I was just curious, when we're thinking about the different ways in which we might describe and the different ways that we might lean into different things that we all know and that we're all looking for. Let's keep it real, people. Keep it real. How how did you decide in what ways that you wanted to lean into the plantain?
Like, explain plantain. This comes this comes from personal deep well of personal experience that I drudged up to embody plantain pants. Like raise your hand if you know exactly the gray pants that we're talking about. Right? Like just like where are they getting them? Like what store? This guy, I said in the book, like there's some discount store where like every guy's like thirst trap pants, and
Yes.
it's just like that's it. I mean, and I also wanted to get a sense of like of Nora being aware of him in this way, but also like fighting that awareness, right?
Yes.
So like she's arguing with her sister about the existence of the plantain pants.
Yes.
Right? Or but she and after a while she just says, look, okay, am I gonna go to KU in a minute and read? Absolutely. You know what I mean? What does that have to do with what we have to do?
Right.
So she teases that out to say, like, yeah, I'm reading, back shots from Bear. Like I'm gonna read it. Right. But but I also have this work to do. I also have this work to do.
Yes.
Sorry, y'all. Sorry. This book is so ratchet. I'm sorry. You guys.
Well, we already hit the classy. We had to hit
bougie,
yes,
ratchet.
serious.
I just think that there's just somebody here that's just like, oh, it's a Jane Austen retelling.
I feel like the audience should be like classic, bougie, ratchet.
Yes.
Regular interval.
Yes.
Okay. So questions of identity. We're going to take this a little serious a little
Yes.
bit. Okay.
Yes, y'all.
Questions of identity permeate the narrative. Nora is an African-American woman who was transplanted from Maryland to Maine. Bear is a native Abenaki who lives on a reservation. There's a touching and funny scene in which they go back and forth and grapple with questions about who they are and how they navigate the world. And their exchange about a Black woman and lotion had me cackling. Tell us why it was important to address those issues of identity, and how did you decide what you were going to address and how you were going to address it?
This is such a good question. I feel like when you're reading books that require a lot of like intercultural exchange, particularly in romance, where we want to get to this happy ending, it's almost like in order for that happy ending to exist, you have to pretend like these people are existing in this like perfect world in which people aren't questioning them or looking at them or engaging with them differently than their partner, right? So in these stories where there's a white hero and a Black heroine, that they wouldn't walk into the store and perhaps receive different treatment, right? And so like what I wanted to do, particularly when Nora and Bear are having this back and forth where she's just like, what do I even call you? How do we talk about this? Or what is a reservation? What I allowed my characters to do was like look stupid, ask stupid questions, like become vulnerable with that person to say like, look, I actually don't know this, and I would love understanding. If anyone has ever been in any like cross cultural communication, sometimes it just requires you're looking someone in the whites of their eyes and you're just like, I don't know what this is. And I feel like in romance in particular, that's a really important barrier to get through, to get to understanding. If she's like inching around whether to say my First Nation brethren, right? Or how to talk to him, they're never going to get beyond playing nice with each other, right? And romance requires you have to get a little dirty. You have to get your hands in it and own it. Ow. But yeah, you really have to get in it. And sometimes it's just like, what do I call you? Why the hell do you lotion so much? Like what are we doing? You know?
And I do, just as a comment, I just thought it was so masterful because as a reader, if you have those questions, then you're actually getting those questions answered through the characters. And I just thought it was so well done. And
Thank
so
you.
I was
Thank
so
you.
impressed.
Thank you.
So, in kind of having these understandings, right? Nora and Bear both have these really heavy burdens
Yeah.
that they bear in terms of family and community. And though they learn about each other's burdens at different times, because both of them are going through it, they're able to empathize in ways that we often don't see in romance, because a lot of times they're kind of at odds and they don't necessarily understand the conflict that the other is facing. But I thought it was really masterfully done how you gave them these different touch points, these commonalities, and places where they could kind of meet each other where they were. And one of those involved Space Jam.
Oh,
Can you give us some background on the significance of Space Jam?
this is Bear's absolute love language. He's just such an MJ fan. This is actually from my own, like this is when we talk about born from my own experience. My husband is a like former basketball player. Like if you just say the word Michael, he's gonna say Jordan and know all his stats and just like this is the best thing that's ever happened. And like he forced me to watch that Last Stand documentary like over and over and over. And like the conclusion that I came up with after watching that, I was just like, oh, not a cool dude. Like actually not a nice guy. And my husband's like, how can you watch that and not come out with this is the greatest person that's ever alive? And I'm like, somehow. And so like that was a real discussion of just like, and Space Jam came out with both LeBron and Jordan. So it was this moment for him to like lord Space Jam supremacy, you know what I mean, over her. But like also this story about like coming into yourself with a star player. Like there's this team of like kind of ragtag ne'er-do-wells, right? And then someone comes into their life that gives them the ability to believe that they can actually play against the monsters. And I honestly think that Nora was the person who came into Bear's life that made him go, oh, why did I forget everything that I wanted to do? And yeah, she was MJ in that analogy. Absolutely.
Okay, there's an observation in the book made by Bear's father that really stuck with me. Duty is what people cling to when they are afraid to change. As the author of that line, to what extent do you agree with this observation and how does it relate to Bear's situation?
Yeah. Bear is a hardcore Capricorn zaddy. Okay. And the problem with Capricorn zaddies is this. They or not just like there is a sense of the only way through a problem is to boulder through it. And they will sit and like smash their head against a wall or a problem without being flexible about how they could potentially get out of it. And so Bear used that duty as a crutch to not even question why he was so deeply engaged in the savior complex, why he never challenged his hero edit, right, in the community. And when people patted him on the shoulder and patted him on the head for doing such a good job, why he never said, no, actually, here's the real story. Why he just took all of that because he felt like he belonged. And he felt like his worst fear was that he would look like his father, like not belonging. And so it brought him into this sense of comfort. And so what he felt was duty, he was really getting kind of fed by that sense of like I'm doing what's right, when in fact he was being patted on the head for doing what the people thought was right. But was he? I mean, it would have been nicer for him to have cut that off earlier. Whatever, no spoilers.
So for anyone with sisters or even sister friends, obviously there's often a dynamic where one feels like they're carrying more and the other feels like they're dismissed quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I noticed your dedication to this story. And so I was curious about if you leaned into personal experience when creating this sister dynamic.
Y'all, I am the baby sister of 4. And literally every time I go home, it's always like my older sister's like rubbing a can against the prison. Nobody knows the trouble I see. And like everything was terrible. And the thing that I remember though, as a younger sister, like everyone talks about like elder sister trauma, like there's a whole like Encanto, like everything, it was about that, right? But there is this sense of like the younger sister who has to like, she's singing for her supper, kid. Like everything that she has done, all the parents is already saying, like, you're not cool anymore, you're not cute. Like you have to really find a way to carve out your sense of belonging. And when you try to hang with your older sister and say like, hey, look what I did. And particularly if your sister has these ideas about how things are supposed to go, it can become like, nice try, sis, but kick rocks, And so there's a sense of like, Nora is dedicated to what she has to do. But the only way she sees value in Yan's contribution is if it is along those lines of what she feels like she needs. But if you like go like a little bit underneath the subtext, I think you may find, hashtag little sisters. I think you may find that from the beginning that Yan may have been right and even questioning her initial role. Like, does this have to do this? Does Barton Cove have to be this? Right? And she didn't listen and she went her own way and things happened however they happened. And I think, has she been flexible? Has she been a little more open to what this place could be? Maybe success? I don't know. Listen to your little sisters. I don't know.
I am in awe of how you wove humor into this book. So you've got Jan's one-liners, Nora's TLDR lists, even Bear's observations about his cousins.
Yeah.
They're super specific and they relate to the character. So tell us about adding humor to the book, how you approach that. And am I right in assuming that it's not about opportunity, but specificity?
Yeah, no, it is. No, you have it right there. The thing about an individual's POV is that they have to see things from their own perspective, and it has to be ridiculous in the context of Nora, right? So in order for those lines for Yan to land, is that in Nora's specific POV, that is a ridiculous thing to say, right? That is a ridiculous thing to believe, right? And so it has to be contextual, because when someone is completely focused on this and then someone comes in left field with, but did you think about this? Nora's like, where did this, how are you, like, are we even on the same planet? So it absolutely is about the specificity of character. And I also don't know, I mean, maybe I'll find out, but I don't know if I can fully play it straight, right? Like I will be interested maybe as if I grow as a writer, if that comedic voice is not there as strong, but I feel like I write with a little bit of like, not to compare myself to Jane Austen, but Jane Austen always wrote with this sense of like, isn't this ridiculous? Do you know what I mean? Like, look at like, there are all of these tiny little one-liners, these internal jokes that she is telling to the audience in particular. And it's just writing with a little bit of your tongue firmly placed in your cheek. And I don't know if I can write straight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can.
Well, you did it beautifully.
Yes. And I'm glad you don't write straight.
Right.
I love it. And speaking of the TLDR lists, there was one that I really loved because
Yes.
I feel like it allows us to maybe do a demonstration.
Can I just say quickly?
Yes.
I used to work in a huge tech firm. And one of the things that we used to have to write before our extremely long and extensive reports were TLDR. look at her. She's like TLDR. Were TLDRs. And TLDRs literally stands for too long, didn't read, cut to the chase. Right. And so like that has absolutely come from my experience and background. And like you have all of these large points, you have this larger thesis, but what is the TLDR?
Yes. Yes. So one of the lovely lists was the anatomy of a hug.
Oh.
And it defined that there are 3 types of hugs, y'all. Okay. There is a coworker hug,
Mhm.
there is a church hug,
Mhm.
and there is you in danger girl. And so I was just curious if you might indulge us
Yes.
with a demonstration.
Oh, are you in danger, girl? Huh? Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yes. who wants to do it? In, you in
The
danger?
audience wants to, yeah.
I'll do all three. I'll do all three. Okay. Butt sticking out just like now this is the church picture, right? Oh, how are you, Sister Lorraine? How are you? This is the first like we're cool with y'all gonna be, right? Now this is like this. What's up? Okay, now this is if I may. I don't want to like okay. This is like hey girl. And it's like groin to groin, and you're leaning back. Like, nice stuff. And like when she happens upon that person, they're doing the third hug. It's like, Thank you, thank you.
That groin to groin just makes you think back to the gray sweatpants, don't it?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Yes. So I had a really lovely conversation with one of our mutual friends just this past Sunday, and I was marveling at the way that you just kind of master setting. And our friend was saying that's one of the things you hate.
I hate setting.
Yes. And I literally, before she told me that, I was like, I really think she should teach a master class in setting, because the way that you do it, you have the sensory details. It is so far beyond cinematic. You're just there. And it was so beautifully done.
Yeah.
And I was just curious, friend, how do you tackle setting knowing that you hate it? So that you can get it to a point where it becomes so dynamic for your reader.
Oh my gosh, setting is so hard for me. When I'm writing my first draft, everybody's in a gray box. Like things are popping off in a gray box. Everyone's in a car, in a room. Nothing is happening. And then I'll send my first draft off and I'm just like, please read my beautiful thing. You know, the first comment when I sent off my first draft for Sex, Lies, and Sensibility, they're just like, isn't this a renovate? Like, isn't this supposed to be about a house? And I was like, oh, good point. So what happens though is this painstaking, constant revision of place. And you have to really, to me, I lean into characters to do setting. Like I can't be atmospheric. Like if you're like there's some authors who like start with this atmosphere and you just rolling in and you're just like, I am in this haunted mansion, right? But I have to start with a character and what they would be seeing or smelling, and not just like, oh, there's a smell of popcorn, but like, what is it that Nora would notice about the smell of popcorn? That it's about to burn. Someone needs to take it out. Like the setting has to be about what this person would notice. And so like when her and Bear are taking this walk, like maybe she'll notice all of the lovely foliage because it's Maine and it's fall, but she actually notices his jays crunching the leaves like chips, you know what I mean? And so she's like focused on how quick he is in his physical movements, because as an athlete she's much more attuned to like how people move about the world. And so the setting becomes an outpouring of like how she sees as a character, and not just like plopped down on us to say like, trust me, she's in Maine. It's just like know like the Nora's going to experience that, but it has to come out of the character because it's absolutely unnatural for me to start with a setting. It's just hard. Like everyone has their like things, and setting is just so hard. Like I never start with it was a nice day in the sun. Like I can't. It's like there's a person and something is happening with that person, and then the world unfolds according to that person, and like not the other way around. Yeah.
So in romance, there is often internal and external conflict. An external conflict be plot, what drives it forward, what's happening to the characters. But then internally, and that internal conflict is kind of what is holding these characters back from falling in love. And Gwen Hayes calls that going from wholehearted, HOLE, to wholehearted, WHOLE. And I love that.
No.
And it's just one of those things that has never left me. And I think about it in every romance that I read. So tell us about that for Nora and Bear. What's holding them back internally from being the selves that can fall in love together?
I have a very easy and quick answer for this. It's absolute shame. They are fundamentally ashamed of themselves. And they don't think that they actually deserve the love that's even unfolding right in front of them. Because of what has happened in their past, because of Nora's past, she's constantly confronted with her low value or low status in society. It's all the only thing people want to talk to her about who she is. And Bear's the opposite, where everyone is telling him how great he is all the time, but he knows this little secret, right? He knows this little secret. And for both of them, the shame keeps them from even being real with the other person. And they're just like, if I could just fix this thing inside of myself, I won't have to tell them anything. If I could just clean this, or if I could just ignore it, right, then I'll be fine. But they can only become wholehearted if they release the thing that kept them distant in the first place, which was releasing that shame to say like, yeah, I'm kind of low-key an asshole, but here I am, and that's the thing. It's like, does Nora like Bear, these characters who carry this, do they still deserve love? They've done these things, they've said these things, they've acted in these ways. Do they still deserve like a soft place to land, a soft place to lay their head,
And do they release?
baby?
Okay, so viral video scandals and the associated trauma, sickle cell crises, and being located in a predominantly white area with low access to the correct treatments, environmental protections versus, self-interest or local government corruption. There's a level of care and intention in the way that you draw attention to different matters. And I'm curious to know, how do you balance incorporating these kinds of circumstances to create three-dimensional characters?
I like to think about what types of things are like keeping this character up at night. So it's not so like for Pride and Protest, it wasn't that like Lisa is just like this naturally good heart, like she woke up and she was just so altruistic, right? She was evicted and living with her mother, and it was driving her crazy. And then gentrification became this drum. She was just like, no, I can't even afford to live, right? And so like these crises are large and they're global and they're all of these things, but also incredibly personal for a person who like Bear, who grew up on the river, and for a person who has his livelihood in nature, right? And running these trails, and his community's livelihood is here. And for them to say like, hey, what if this wasn't here? Right. And it's not just like, I am this fighter, I am this perfect individual. And it's just like, no, this is my piece. This is my thing. And how are we responding to that? And so like, I like to think of it as like this individual issue, right? One of the things that my character Bear says is like in his speech is about how people love to kind of memorialize Native folk, to write, all of our names, Tallahassee, Mississippi, like they're all these kind of memorials of individuals that we assume like aren't real today, aren't in this world today, still fighting for their rights, still fighting for tribal sovereignty, still being and trying to be visible like in this world today. And that was one of the things that I wanted like Bear to struggle with. It's like this is not like some memory. Like you can't just roll over. Like being Native American is something that you remember sweetly from the past, or that everyone's great grandmothers is Cherokee, you know what I mean? That they remember from the past. Like we are here now.
Mhm.
We are being disrupted now. And now what can we do? Yeah.
He says the reservation is my home, not a
Not a
museum.
museum.
And I very rarely remember anything. I'm telling you, I have the worst memory, and there are so many lines in this book where I'm like, I can say this by heart
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
so good, so impactful.
That was a line directly said, right? This is not a museum. And
Right.
people literally tried to cross over and walk around taking pictures
Yeah.
Mhm.
in people's homes.
Mhm.
Look at
Mhm.
these ancient communities. I'm just
Mm.
this is a Wendy's, ma'am. You know what I mean?
Right.
What are you doing?
All right. Tell us, what was your favorite scene to write and why, if you can think of one?
My favorite scene to write, I would say it was a cross between the wigwam scene
Yes.
and their like back and forth, their conversation where she's asking about who he is, essentially. Both because they require a bit of tense volleying. And I like that the volley, and I like in the wigwam scene, especially to try to pull that like rubber band or bowstring as tight as I could pull it, And I just like the experience. I liked the experience of just like, this is excruciating. How can I make it worse? You know what I mean? So yeah, I love that type of exercise. Yeah.
The wigwam. The
The
wigwam.
wigwam.
The wigwam. The wigwam. Just trying to tell y'all. So we want to make sure that we leave time for questions, but before we get to that, we have a very quick lightning round. And so we're going to ask you some questions. We just want you to give us the first answer that comes to mind.
Love it.
Okay. And
Love this for
so yeah, I love it for you too. I love it for all of us, honestly. And so I think I've got the first section. So what would Bear include on a special Valentine's Day playlist for Nora?
First of all, obviously Jodeci freaking you. Okay. Obviously, a lot of Keith Sweat begging ass songs.
Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of like just 80s and 90s hair metal. You know what I mean? Like if you think of like Aerosmith, like Ragdoll, Cena in the movies, don't get me started on Aerosmith. But you know what I mean? Like he just loves just a lot of that. So he would have that these little subliminal messages, little 9 Inch Nails Closer. If anyone has ever listened to that, you know what I mean? Will gag you.
Love it.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite Jane Austen protagonist?
Anne Elliot, hands down. Period.
Love.
Period. Stop. Anne Elliot. Oh, queen of my heart.
Mm.
And no, never. Literally, like no one cares. It's just like we don't care. She's the best. Thank you. Oh my gosh. I can't handle Anne. She's too perfect. I'll get anxiety.
Who is the most misunderstood Jane Austen character?
I want to say Fanny just because I personally feel feelings about Fanny. I don't think she's misunderstood. I think she's deeply understood and it's just not enough. You know what I mean? Like, I think everyone knows who Fanny is, low key.
Yes.
But okay, maybe. Can I? You guys, controversial take a little bit. May I? Wickham. Okay. But hear me out. If you think about the time, it wasn't like it's not like people didn't get married at that age, right? It wasn't like an issue of creeping out weirdness that he was trying to get with Georgina, right? It was an issue of trying to pilfer finances, right? Like dude was broke. He was doing what broke dudes do. It's just like he was trying to win. And I'm just like, look, If he were like Danny Ocean in Ocean's 11, you would absolutely love Wick. He's a scoundrel who's about that bread and was doing wrong things for the bread. But in this context, because Dorsey is our hero, Wick can't be the slick Danny Ocean. But I think if you give Wick the Danny Ocean treatment, hear me out? No? She's like, no. Everyone's like, no. Okay. I'll take my hot take back. Thank
That
you.
is, it is classic. You said he was doing what broke dudes.
Honestly, that was the best part. Well, speaking of Wickham, okay, I'm gonna ask the one, y'all. Pride and Prejudice, 95 or 05?
Turn off that laugh. Okay, because we're about to get into it, sis. Okay, here's the thing. I came of age in 1995, right? I was becoming a woman when Mr. Dorsey came out of that lake and like was in that wet shirt, right? Like that was me. I'm just like, this better not do anything to me sexually. It absolutely did something to me sexually, right? I was ruined. I was not okay. Okay. However, though, the thing that 2005 I feel like has over 1995 is it is a romantic movie, right? I mean, when you think like the music swells, the cues, the not just the hand flex, because honestly, the hand flex isn't the thing. There's a scene when she walks into Netherfield and he just flusteredly stands up like, oh shit, like that. I mean, low key, that's the best Dorsey moment. But I'm saying all this to say that like 2005 has it over 1995 slightly for this reason. It I hope we're not recording because if anyone ever tries to bring this up in a larger discussion, I will deny. I will say I have no idea what you're talking about. 2005, I watch again for the swoon.
Yeah.
It has the swoon. And I feel like 1995 was trying to be a faithful production, right? And it was. And in and of itself, it's a great movie because it's a faithful, in some ways, production. But 2005, less faithful, hotter.
Truly.
Hotter.
Okay, I have one last question
Yes.
and then pass it to my co-host over here. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Dorsey or Bear?
Oh, dear. I wish I had a white glove right now. I would challenge you to a duel. Oh my gosh. Dorsey or Bear?
Yes, ma'am.
As in Dorsey Fitzgerald?
Mm-hmm.
Or Bear?
Or Bear Freeman, baby.
Bear Freeman. Woo, Bear fucks though. Okay, so I'm so sorry. Bear. Okay. Honestly. Okay. Can I do one thing? Can I do one thing? Okay. Okay. Dorsey for the day. Bear for the night. For the night. Woo!
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Shook me all night long.
I'm here for that. I'm here
The
for it.
song went shook me all night long. Yeah.
Best. Okay,
Yes.
these are rapid fire. Okay.
Yeah.
And for anybody who hasn't read, you will understand this once you read. Okay, ready? Pride and Prejudice or Sense and Sensibility?
As in the Jane Austen?
Yeah.
Pride and Prejudice.
Okay. LeBron
Oh,
is your or MJ is your husband here?
turn that camera. LeBron.
Okay.
Like LeBron, right? Like, I'm sorry, guys, LeBron. Sorry.
Okay.
Jordans or Adidas?
Jays.
Okay.
Jordans. I'm only human.
And finally, cupcakes or meat pies?
Oh, okay. Honestly, Jamaican meat patty will absolutely fuck me up. I'm gonna go meat pie.
Okay.
Because you always have to scrape the frosting off a cupcake. Cupcakes are more, you always end up going, I thought I wanted this, and now here we are. Meat pie, you're just like, I'm committed to the end, Yeah, meat pies.
Easy enough.
Yeah.
Well, I think we are ready to open it up to audience questions.
Yeah.
Yes. Woo.
Yes! Stimulant is everything, y'all.
And to my surprise, I knew none of the authors. So all three of you are new to me. So my question to you is, what advice do you
add to someone new who's never read a word of yours?
I would say it depends on like the type of romance you like. I would say my advice is find your id list, because there will be something that you're reading and you're just like, oh, let's just try it. And you read it and it's just like, ick, there's a baby in this, or like there's a secret baby. Who knew? And um and you'll think like, hey, I don't like this book, when in fact, like there are certain like micro tropes and small aspects of a book that can take you out of what is essentially supposed to be a romantic journey. So I would say like the first thing is like finding what's on your id list, finding those things of just like, if these people like work in an office and work late at night and blah blah blah, like I am in, like finding those things can go particularly for romance, they can help you navigate and predict what can potentially be a great read for you. And also knowing like your ick is kind of important too, because you don't want to roll into something and then just like, I'm like continuously grossed out. You know what I mean? By this thing. Just kind of finding that like what's on your id list, I think is a great way to navigate romance, because there's literally something for whatever you like. Whatever you like.
Just for the folks at home, the question was, if you're attending a ReaderCon and you're not familiar with some of the authors, how do you figure out how to navigate that space?
Mhm. Yeah. And I was just like, find your trope, find your love, find your ick also. Oh, yes, girl. Yes.
Okay, hi.
With the ascot, obviously.
Yeah. I am one of handful of Black village urban names.
Yes. She said, against my will.
I find that I spend a lot of my time reframing and recontextualizing where I'm from, for people that went to summer camp, or they
Yeah.
went on vacation.
Yeah.
They did sunrise at Acadia.
Mhm.
What would you want those people who are maybe planning a trip to
Mhm.
take away from this book, or in reflecting on trips of their youth
Mhm.
that because they didn't engage with
Yeah.
Black Mainers,
Yeah.
Indigenous Mainers, they have overlooked?
Yeah. I would say is the one thing that I was surprised at, particularly because I was in the Orono Bar Harbor area, is that there's a large immigrant community, particularly like Somali, right? Like I was going to stores and I'm just like, this is brown. What we doing? Hey sis, like it was, and so immediately that sense of just like, man, ain't got no Black folk. Like as soon as you go into a place and you realize, and that's what's great about like being there and seeing and allowing those perceptions of what a place is to fall away, right? And so I would say the first thing that I would say to those individuals who are wanting to engage in Maine is like, if you're going to Maine to like have this particular type of experience, most people like kind of like rusticators, or people who are trying to have a rustic old school experience, then they're going to find what they're looking for, right? But if you open your eyes and go a little bit outside of just like, I'm going to only engage in rustic Maine, if you just like go to a grocery store or just hang out in these kind of smaller areas, then there's this sense of a Maine that is like actually young and vibrant and like trying to redefine themselves, particularly with interestingly in like how they kind of name themselves and how they name areas around them and how they experience that. So I would say like, have like, you go to a big vacation, but like also have these little vacations where you're going into like gas stations and like, little grocery stores where you're experiencing like everyday Maine. And I think that that will give you a much broader sense of how people actually live. Yes. Am I calling on folks? I'm just like calling on folks.
I haven't had a chance to read Sex Size Sensibility yet, but one of the things I loved the most, I guess, to go back to the classic
Mhm.
topic in Pride and Protest, was getting to read these story beats
Mhm.
from the male character's point of view.
Yeah.
And so not, why is he acting that way?
Mhm.
Why do I think I'm acting that
Yeah,
way?
yeah,
In
yeah.
this situation? And so I was just curious at how you, in either book, both books, approach that, and if there were any particular story beats that were like, how am I gonna get there? with this?
Yeah, no, Sense and Sensibility, if anyone has read that, is a trip. Like it is, there's so many characters. There are a lot of little storylines, and I had to really streamline. And one of the things that I had to focus on was like, what is the core story that I'm trying to tell? there's a lot of things that Jane Austen kind of played for gags, but one of the things that the beat that I really wanted to hit, particularly in Sense and Sensibility, was that aspect of like when economically someone is up against the wall. If you've ever read a Jane Austen, the first thing she's going to do is tell you what everybody's bag is. You know what I mean? She's going to say, he making $20, don't mess with him. He's, like she will tell you, read everybody down for filth, And so she brings into these heroines who have their back against the wall, who have lost their agency, who have like their financial and economic power stripped away. And so, like, in these moments of like, when you are without that economic agency, like, how do you act? How do you engage? And that's one of the broader questions, I think, of Sense and Sensibility, is that these women were in a particular situation and then brought low by circumstances outside of them. Do you still act honorably? How do you engage with what you feel versus how you should act in society, right? And so she puts Marianne and Eleanor in contrast to each other. But even though she makes fun of Marianne quite a bit, hashtag dead leaves, she's also like telling us at the end that you can't have sense without the other adjoining sensibility. You can't be all Nora. You have to take life. You have to grab life by the fat of its stomach a little bit sometimes. It can't be one way or the other, right? One of the things that Eleanor does at the very end of the book was just release all of this emotion that was incredibly pent up. And so, like, that was the thread that I wanted to take. One, those economic factors that push people against the wall, and that sense of like this broader sense of like, it can't be just sense or sensibility. They have to meet in the middle to actually make a person.
Do we want to do a virtual
Oh,
question?
yes.
Oh yeah, one of them, someone's asking, would you write a Wickham redemption book? Could you repeat that?
And would it be filthy? Is that the secondary question?
And just so we have it, the question is, would you write a Wickham redemption story?
I think I would write a Wickham redemption story. He would have to be much older though. Like in the way that like someone's 20 and then now someone's like 45 and they're just like, I was kind of an asshole. But I would have to have him have a little bit of gray in the temples. And kind of he would have to be a single dad because he needs a pet to, he needs like a cat to pet, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like I'm just saying the thread of like rehabilitating him, you would have to bring these things of like, he has learned from mistakes, not like shied away from the mistakes. He has made them. And now he is this person now who is 45, who has learned from being a rascal. So I think I could. And I think it would fuck, right? I mean, I think we can get down. We can get down. Like for real, like old timey, like honestly, if you're really being for real with yourself and you're just like in Regency England and Wick comes and he's in his like, his Regency reds, his regimentals, and then Dorsey comes and he's this awkward AF and you're just like, who do you want to tumble with? Like for real. It's kind of Wickham. It's kind of Wickham. Unpopular opinion, I know. But
One more.
Rosie?
So with the book, the first one is what element of the story changed the most from the first draft to the version we have now? And the second one is what element has stayed the same across every draft?
Oh, you're asking like a writer.
So the question is, what element changed from the first draft to now, and what element stayed the same throughout the rounds of drafts?
What stayed the same for every single draft was the meet cute. He had to accuse her of Columbusing. You know what I mean? He had to call her colonizer. She had to clutch her pearls just like, moi? A Black woman colonizing? Like that had to happen. It had to happen in every single iteration. What changed the absolute most was Bear's like begging scene. He has this Keith Sweat scene. I call it the Keith Sweat scene, but it is just absolutely him on his knees. And by the way, just for future reference, if you can't stand a begging hero, like I don't know what to tell you. Okay, like you're in the wrong spot because they are just gonna beg for everything. But like he's in his Keith Sweat moment, and I kept having to refine that to get it to a place where I want it over and over. It must have gone through 8 or 9 iterations. It just changed so much because I wanted to get that pining, that begging I wanted to get the Keith Sweat of it just right. Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful and hysterical. I am going to send the 3 of you back to our little space. And let's get one more round of applause for these lovely, lovely authors. Yay. Yeah, I will send you all back there. We are going to take about 15 minutes or so to reset the space. Encourage y'all to, if you need to get a copy of any of the books, you can get them upstairs now. If you would like to peruse our romance section, it is over there. If you are willing and able to fold your chair up and set it to the side, we will come back on the microphone shortly to let you know where the signing line is happening. Until then, please browse, shop, enjoy yourself.
I also got made some little bags for y'all, some little Valentine's Day bags. So I don't know, like while supplies last, I guess, but but I made you guys some things. So please enjoy.
We'll be back shortly.